This is part 2. We left off on page 91, and it's right here, right after Keith told Ralph that he brought him a present. Puzzled and curious, Ralph squeezed through the knothole. "What is it?" he asked. Whatever the object was, he had never seen anything like it. "Half a ping-pong ball I found down in the game room," said Keith. "See, I padded the inside with thistle down and anchored the rubber band to the top with Scotch tape." "What for?" Ralph still did not understand. "A crash helmet for you." Keith set the half ping-pong ball on Ralph's head and slipped the rubber band carefully around his whiskers until it rested under his chin. "There, that's just right. You need it big so there will be plenty of room for your ears. When you ride a motorcycle, you need a crash helmet." Ralph peered at Keith from under his new crash helmet, which rested lightly on his head. He knew he looked every inch a motorcycle racer, but never in his whole life had he felt ashamed. So there's ashamed again. So you can tell about ashamed on your will as well if you want to put page 92 right here. And it said, this is really a strong ashamed because it does say that never in his whole life had he felt so ashamed. So he feels more ashamed now than he ever has before. He longed to crawl off into his hole and never face Keith again, but his conscience, which until now he did not know he had, would not let him. There was nothing to do but stand there in his fine new crash helmet and confess. "You might as well know," he told Keith. "I lost the motorcycle." "Lost the motorcycle?" Keith, who had been kneeling, sat back on his heels. "But how?" "I rode it by mistake into a pillowcase in a heap of linen on the floor, and it got dumped into the laundry hamper," confessed Ralph. "You rode it into a pillowcase?" repeated Keith. "But you weren't supposed to ride it in the daytime. You promised." "I know," agreed Ralph miserably. "I didn't exactly mean to ride it, but you did." Keith's voice was accusing. "Well, you see, the maid was vacuuming under the bed, and I—" began Ralph and stopped. "Oh, what's the use? I rode it, and I lost it, and it's probably gone to the laundry by now, and I'm sorry." The boy and the mouse were silent. Both were thinking about the little motorcycle with its clean lines and pair of shining chromium exhaust pipes. "That motorcycle was my very most favorite of all my cars," said Keith. "I saved my allowance and bought it myself." Ralph hung his head in his crash helmet. There was nothing more he could say. It was a terrible thing he had done. "I guess I should have known you weren't old enough to be trusted with a motorcycle," said Keith. The boy could not have said anything that would hurt Ralph more. So right now Ralph's feeling pretty bad, but I think it's time for a clue word. And the clue word is the answer to this question. What kind of muffin did Keith deliver to the mouse hole or to the knot hole? What kind of muffin in chapter 8? So that is the answer to that question is your clue word. All right. Okay, let's take a look at our pages for just a moment. So get out your packets. Okay, let's look at what a day. And we've numbered everything. 6 was the peanut butter sandwich, so you need to think of a sentence that would go here, okay? That starts with maybe Ralph asks for a peanut butter sandwich. Make sure it has a capital letter and a period. Then what we read about yesterday, the vacuum cleaner, that's going to be number 7. And for this, you need a sentence like, the vacuum cleaner almost sucks up Ralph, okay? Or something to that extent, all right? Something that means the same thing. Make sure that you have a capital letter and a period. And what's interesting about this is that the vacuum cleaner was in chapter 7 and it's number 7. And a peanut butter sandwich is 6 and it was in chapter 6. And then finally, our last picture we just read about. So this is going to be number 8. And this shows what? So if we looked at the picture just barely in our book, very similar to this one, if you see them both together. And this is on page 92. And so what's happening here? And what's happening is that Ralph is telling Keith that he lost the motorcycle, right? So you don't need to have that exact sentence, but something about that. Okay, so that was on page 92. So now you should be all finished with this page. If you're not, make sure that you finish it up. And if you want to, if you're feeling bored some afternoon, you're welcome to color these if you want to. You don't have to. And please check for capital letters and periods on all of these and make sure it's neatly done. Now if we look at this page again on getting to know Ralph, then we have a spot up here that says Ralph proves that he is honest when. And I think that we just read a part where he really proved that he was honest is when he told Keith the truth that he had lost the motorcycle. He didn't try to lie. He was honest. He didn't say, "Oh, I don't know what happened to the motorcycle." He could have just said he could have lied and said the maid cleaned under the bed and she took it. So, but Ralph really proved that he was honest in this point in the book. And again, that was on page 93. Okay, so 92 to 94, but you can look through page 93. So Ralph proves that he's honest when he tells Keith the truth about the motorcycle. Also, make sure that your name is on this right now, if you would, please. All right. I hope you enjoyed chapter 8. I know I really like chapter 8. And tomorrow we're going to do chapter 9. There is not an after you read page for 8 and 9. Okay, that's for chapters 10 and 11. So you are all set for today if you've listened to the videos and you've filled out your pages, right? Also, feel free to add more to this as well if you've come up with any other words that you feel like fit. I will talk to you later. Bye.